Going to try to share the correct screen. Um, does that look responsive to everyone? Okay,
Looks
great.
good.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for having me today, and thank you for that introduction, Meg. Like Meg said, I'm Madelyn Leembruggen. I'm the president and co-founder of A World of Women in STEM. We call ourselves WOW STEM for short, and we're an online learning platform that is dedicated to 7th to 10th grade girls. So we make videos, we write blog posts, and come up with fun activities that are focused on the STEM fields and specifically the women who have been part of these fields throughout history. So we really founded this because women and gender minorities have always been key contributors to the development of the STEM fields. And despite this long history of engagement, at every level of education, there's still attrition of young people from underrepresented groups who lose interest in STEM topics due to a wide combination of factors, but specifically the factors that we are targeting, that we are attempting to alleviate are unengaging STEM content, a lack of role models, active discouragement, and other things like this. So all of these factors together are sometimes referred to as the leaky pipeline. And it's this well-established challenge to representation, inclusion, and retention of ethnic and gender minorities in the STEM fields. So we're a free resource that is addressing this issue by providing accessible and engaging blogs, videos, and activities that are really highlighting the lives of and science of women in STEM. So I'll tell you a lot more about where we go along the way. But before I get into that, I'll tell you a little bit more about myself and what you can expect from this presentation. So I am mostly going to be telling you about WowSTEM, but please feel free to interrupt with questions or drop them in the chat at any time. I want this to be an open discussion throughout, and you can ask me about things that are a little bit tangential to the presentation, or if anything that I say raises a question in your mind about something related, please feel free to ask the question and I will do my best to answer. So about me, I graduated from Harvard in May of this year. I just finished up my PhD. I was studying soft condensed matter there, and specifically, I was making simulations of very thin sheets to study how they deform. And the goal of this was really to understand how paper crumples. There's some really interesting statistics in there, and so that's what we were getting at with our research. But I am now a freelance science writer. I'm based in Washington, D.C. So I'm doing things like writing for YouTube channels like SciShow. I design curricula for high school and middle school classrooms based on interdisciplinary STEM topics. And then, of course, I still run WOW STEM. So you can ask me questions about physics, engineering, writing, both for broad audiences and technical writing. I've done a lot of workshop facilitation. I do curriculum design at all levels. And I'll tell you more in the presentation about our social media outreach and the kinds of strategies we have there. And I can also talk about some of the in-person activities that we do at various, when I was still based in Boston, we did a lot of in-person events at like science fairs around Boston. And then, yeah, I know too much about coffee and cheese. So if you really want to derail me, you are free to ask me questions about coffee or cheese production. But I fear that is more off topic than some of these other uh, other topics in the list. Okay, getting into it. Our group founded WowSTEM to address the earliest stages of the leaky pipeline. So we were really thinking about middle schoolers because middle school is when students' interests begin to diversify and also when peer opinion becomes paramount. It's what other people think about you is so important when you're that age. And those are tough years for everyone, regardless of what you're interested in. But we wanted to make sure that the platform we were creating had balanced biographical and scientific explanations so that no matter what you're interested in, if you're interested in stories, if you're interested in history or math, science, engineering, no matter what you're interested in, we want to be sure that we have content for you. So we created all of our content with 7th to 10th grade girls in mind, and it's written at a level that challenges students without being intimidating. Studies show that early interventions can improve girls' sense of self-efficacy, which is an essential aspect of forming a STEM identity. So we have about 20 posts about historical women in STEM's contributions to research across all of the STEM fields. These historic posts range. And these posts in particular are crafted around storytelling because we want girls to be able to see themselves and see what problem solving looks like, what it means uh, to have a goal and get it done, because those are really vital aspects of forming an identity with STEM, where girls feel like they can relate to the processes that we do in STEM. In addition to these historic figures, we also have about 15 posts about modern scientists who are active in their research communities. And the goal here is to highlight scientists from historically underrepresented and excluded groups, empowering girls to see themselves in STEM starting now, not just like people who are done with their whole career, but also people who are kind of at the beginning or middle of their career doing amazing things. And kind of the last pillar of what we do at WowSTEM is highlight science and technology from ancient traditions, such as weaving in the Andes, quasi-crystals in Western Asia, and mathematics in Egypt. Exploring traditional cultural knowledge from people groups across the globe demonstrates that people of all genders from everywhere throughout history have always been involved in the process of scientific discovery. So if I had to pick a favorite, I know you're not supposed to pick a favorite child, but I would say that this is my favorite subset of what we do, because I think it's so cool to look across the globe and see what, see that people everywhere were so creative and innovative at every point in time in human history, and getting to highlight that is really fun. This content is generated by our incredible team of contributors. We've worked with nearly 40 contributors across the globe, and they're all early career professionals in science, art, and writing, and just has been a wonderful team. We are all volunteers, and it's just been so cool to build such an ambitious project with a bunch of people who are equally excited about the topic. So our primary mission, I would say, is increasing STEM retention of middle and high school aged girls. But we have the added bonus of professional development for our contributors. So we have our contributors improving their skills in science writing, video production, science illustration, editing. All of these things are building their own professional set of professional skills. And speaking on behalf of the board, I can definitely say that this project has really enriched all aspects of our lives and made us feel more secure in our own STEM identities. So a very cool outcome of this project has been that not only are we creating content that will hopefully inspire young girls to stay in STEM, but this has given our contributors more reasons to stay in STEM as well. And so we are also seeing increased retention amongst our contributors, people who, at the beginning of their PhD programs were maybe feeling burnt out and isolated, gained a much stronger sense of belonging in the community because they participated in our efforts. I think I saw a question pop up, but now I'm having trouble get to the, I found the chat. Oh, thank you for the responses already. Okay, I'm gonna take a second and read these. So one person has said, I love dismantling the narrative that science/math has always been a white Western dude endeavor. I do too. That's like the best part of this is getting to broaden the definition of science and scientist and really rethink how we define who does science and what counts as science. This has been a really cool thing to dig into with this project. Robert says, I have 3 daughters who I tried encouraging to go into STEM, and 2 of them decided they would prefer being a traditional housewife. I think this is a large barrier if our daughters find that career find that life path more attractive than a career. How would you encourage us fathers in helping to encourage our daughters to pursue STEM, given that they may choose the domestic path instead? I think this is a really difficult question. I might want to ponder this more and then come back to that one more towards the end. But I would also encourage us to think again along these lines of redefining what STEM is. Um, one of my philosophies and something that I've learned, especially through this project, is that a lot of domestic work and domestic labor is really STEM. Cooking is chemistry. Work in textiles is engineering and algorithmic thinking, and problem solving. Running a household is hard, and I think there are a lot of skills and thinking patterns in domestic work that should be really classified as STEM. And of course, that's different than having a career in STEM. But let me think more about this as we go through the presentation about what parents can do to help encourage their students to stay in STEM or consider STEM more seriously. Okay, thank you for the questions so far. Please feel free to keep dropping questions in the chat, or you can turn on your mic and ask if you feel so inclined. So I'll tell you about our statistics and our reach for our project. And in the 3 years since our launch, we just had our 3rd birthday. We've had really incredible success. I think this has been so much more fulfilling than we thought it might be. And like I said, we have a team of volunteers. Everyone on this team has been a volunteer. And so since our launch in September 2021, we've received about 65,000 page views from 36,000 unique visitors. And our monthly baseline of visitors has slowly increased. We're seeing over 2,000 visitors to the site every single month. And this has been awesome success for our website. But bringing STEM to students specifically means going where they already are. And that means getting on social media, which was a pretty big barrier for us. We were intimidated by it. But we've been so super pleased with our success online, particularly on our TikTok account, where we've built a community of over 3,000 followers. And in those 3 years since we launched, we've received about 1 million cumulative video views, and we've reached over 75,000 individual accounts. So even though this has been a very intimidating process, it was necessary for us to effectively reach our audience. And it was so exciting to have these statistics of how many individual people we've reached. And we are always hoping to sustain interest and grow our audience and get more engagement. But it's just really amazing what we were able to accomplish in our free time, and how many lives we were able to touch at least once. Like I mentioned, our website has pretty consistent monthly traffic. So this is really bolstered by our extensive library of content. Like I showed you, we have a lot of posts that live permanently on our website. And most of our traffic is coming from organic Google searches, which means that our content library is providing sought after information about underdocumented women in STEM. It means that people are Googling topics related to our posts, or they're Googling the names of these women, and they're being directed to our site because it is useful information that might not be provided elsewhere. On the other hand, our social media engagement requires constant creation. So views are one thing, but a better metric for social media success is engagement. And we always receive the best engagement when we're posting consistently. You can see that all of these spikes are corresponding to when we have posted a video, and otherwise we don't really get a lot of engagement with our post. We get maybe a trickle of a couple views per day, but the most engagement happens when we're making dedicated efforts to post regularly and post a lot of content. And that's really hard for a volunteer workforce. So I would say our most success has been on TikTok, but this is also the most time consuming and difficult to maintain. In terms of statistics, we have a great mix of users consuming our media. So our website traffic is 64% desktop computers and organic Google searches. So we hope that that's people who are, doing research for their own research, for their own interests, or maybe for like a school report, something like that. Maybe teachers are coming across our content as they lesson plan. And we've also received site visitors from 167 countries, which indicates that we have global interest in diverse and empowering stories, especially because we've really made an effort to showcase researchers from across the globe and from places that are not America or Western Europe. Then I think that's really helped expand the amount of reach that we have into other countries. On TikTok, our audience is about 2/3 female, and more than 70% of our audience is under the age of 35. So unfortunately, well, probably fortunately, TikTok accounts for people under the age of 18 can't be tracked. So that makes our job a little bit harder tracking the statistics of if we're actually reaching our intended audience. But it's a good thing overall that young people's accounts can't be data mined. So it's hard to tell if we're reaching the teenagers that we are hoping to engage with most, but it's been really fun to build this online community of science-curious women who are primarily Gen Z. It's really helped us stay closer to that target audience by engaging an audience who is a little bit older, but is still within kind of the same cultural bubble as the younger people that we're trying to target. Some of our favorite projects have been collaborations with other organizations. So the first collaboration we did was with Women Supporting Women in the Sciences. We profiled the research of two of their founding members, chemist Dr. Cecilia China and textiles engineer Dr. Pendo Bigambo. So WS2 was actually funded by the APS Innovation Fund a couple years ago, and they are such an amazing organization. They create lab kits to be distributed at schools across Eastern Africa to increase the variety of physics and chemistry experiments available to students. Their lab kits have been deployed to over 5,100 students at more than 40 schools, and 60% of students at those schools are girls. So WS2's materials include short profiles of African women scientists to be role models, and they try to find scientists whose work is related in one way or another to the experiment that the kit is demonstrating. And WowSTEM expanded two of these kit profiles into full-size articles that we have on our site. And so the plan is when WS2 eventually sends out lab kits when they do their next round, they will send these extended articles as part of those lab kits for students to read. Saw another comment come in about metrics. Yes, metrics has definitely been this has been one of the harder aspects for us about our project because we're all full-time grad students when working on this. And so, of course, statistics and analysis is something that we are capable of, and pulling all of this interesting data from across the web and all of these platforms, there's a lot of power in analyzing those statistics, and we weren't able to leverage them in increasing our engagement, but it was still it's still always really interesting to see how things were going and being able to define our strategy moving forward based on who we were currently reaching. So another organization that we've collaborated with is Galactic Polymath. So GP translates real-life research into free lesson plans for grades 5 through 12. This is the organization that I mentioned I am a curricular designer with. So me working with GP actually started because we connected with them about this article that we wanted to write. In one of GP's lessons, they included a short story about Dr. Rongi Takanawa, who is a Maori textiles conservator. And so WowSTEM was able to expand this article that they wrote about Dr. Takanawa's research and kind of expand the story about her. And this was part of a lesson called Colorful Solutions about chemical engineering and dye technology, and it was built with strong connections to Maori cultural touchpoints. So this was a very special project to also get to host on WOW STEM's website, because Dr. Takanawa has both generational training in textiles conservation and textiles work, and then also chemical engineering background in textiles conservation. So just a quick shameless plug for Galactic Polymath. I do work with them, and I think they're an amazing company, but they have a couple amazing lesson plans about physics-related topics. So if you are an educator or you know educators who might be interested in these free lesson plans, I definitely encourage you to check this resource out, because they have such in-depth and interdisciplinary work to share across the STEM fields. So one of these lessons, Electric Crystals, is a comic-driven lesson that I created for Fun Size Physics. And that's another organization that's strongly connected to APS. So if you've been to any of the APS meetings, you might have seen Fun Size Physics around. But Electric Crystals is all about the importance of symmetry in crystal phenomena like the piezoelectric effect. And then we have a couple other lessons. There's photon engineers. We're just starting to build another lesson in this unit. This is all about photonics and the way that light interacts with matter. And then Animal Collective is about active matter and group behavior. It's told from a more biology perspective, but it particularly touches on a lot of topics of interest to the soft matter and active matter communities. And it's told at a high school and early college level. So like I said, if you know educators, if you are an educator, check this out. On the other hand, if you run a research lab or you know people who run research labs, I would love to talk to you more about how GP does what they do, taking these university level topics from active research, active ongoing research, and translating it as a broader impact into lessons for middle schoolers and high schoolers. Okay, anyway, back to WOW STEM. The most recent project that we've had that has been so exciting is we have been collaborating with an organization called Astra Femina to film a series of interviews with women from the space industry. So this is a really wonderful series that we wrapped up a couple months ago. We finally have all of the videos on our website, and we also have a guide for Girl Scout troops to use these videos to work towards some of their badges. So that was another cool way that we have been aiming to incorporate existing organizations that work with girls and young women to get them more engaged and interested in STEM. So as a little treat at the end of kind of this me talking at you portion, I wanted to show you a short clip of an interview that we did with astronaut Dr. Katie Coleman. And I should ask if the sound is working. I'm not sure. Okay.
No,
thanks. Share sound. Okay.
I wanted to be an astronaut.
Does that work now?
Yes, that's working.
Okay. I will start it over. Thank you for your patience.
How did you decide that you wanted to be an astronaut? It was literally in an auditorium at MIT, meeting Dr. Sally Ride. And just always thinking that astronauts were somebody that just wasn't me. And it's not that I just thought, well, if she can do that, I can do that. It's more that I just felt like I could identify with her. It seemed important that she, was doing her best to learn everything she could about her field, that she was excited about trying to, bring her ideas to her field. And yet she had this adventure and kind of fun in her work that I don't think I'd really realized I wanted it until I saw it. And I thought, wow, I kind of do want more than just the lab, even though I love the lab. What does that view look like? The thought that occurs to me, just looking down at our planet, I mean, it's incredibly beautiful, and we talk about fragility. And I think fragility is the atmosphere, but the planet looks like the planet is like, it's not going anywhere. This is our planet. And everyone except the 6 or 7 of us that are human are all down there. And when I look down and see all the places, it just seemed, I just want everyone to realize how connected they could be. And so I loved that, looking back at the planet, I wished everyone could realize that there may be some friction involved, but we really are all connected. And if only we would make those connections, there's so much more that we could solve.
Okay, so this is getting to the end of the slides that I have prepared. Thank you again for the opportunity to show you kind of what WOW STEM is and what we've been doing. And I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation about all this and talking about whatever questions and thoughts this sharing our work has brought up. But just want to end on the idea that science communication is open to everyone now. The barrier for getting into SciComm is really low. You know, anyone can start a social media account and anyone can start doing this right away. But I think in order for it to be effective, we need to really think carefully about the content we're creating and how it presents science and engages with young people. So at WOW STEM, our core philosophy is that storytelling is crucial in attracting and retaining women in STEM. And we think that the best way to bring science to people is by bringing people back into the stories that we tell about science. So none of this would be possible without our sponsors, and I just want to acknowledge them really quick. Our first seed grant was from the APS Forum on Education, and without startup funds from them and from Harvard, we never would have gotten off the ground, and we've been able to sustain and expand our mission thanks to individual donors and the SciCommerce grant from Boston University and our partners like Astra Femina. So everyone who donated to this monetarily and all of our volunteers who gave their time really made this vision possible. So with that, I would be happy to show any slides again. Otherwise, I can stop sharing my screen and we can just jump into questions that came up.